And so, first off, I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening. You are in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals for the town of Wenham. As an initial matter, everyone should be aware of the fact that this meeting is being recorded, both video recording and audio recording, and at least as I understand it, it's streaming on YouTube or something else. If that causes anyone a concern, I just want you to be aware of that, and if for any reason you don't wish to participate, just be aware that you will be on video and recorded tonight. The only public hearing that we have this evening is a matter relating to 35 Arbor Street, where this board has previously issued a decision relating to the expansion of a barn on the property. An appeal was taken from that decision. That's the only decision that we're talking about here tonight. An appeal was taken, and at least our understanding is that Judge Foster of the Land Court, after discussions with both parties, requested, and both parties submitted, a joint motion to remand this matter to this board and Judge Foster's remand order is very specific and asks us to reconsider on remand the decision which we issued, to review all of the evidence that was previously before this board, and to accept such additional evidence before the public hearing as we deem appropriate, with the understanding that we then have, I think it's 60 days from the close of the public hearing to issue a decision on remand. In any event, that remand order is obviously part of the record now in front of this board. So,
just to clarify, we had 60 days to open the public hearing from this date, and then you have 30 days.
30 days from the close
to file the decision.
Close of the public hearing. Okay. So I would appreciate it if our clerk would read the notice.
Yep. The Zoning Board of Appeals of the Town of Wenham, Massachusetts will hold a remand public hearing in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 11. The remand order issued in the action entitled Stanley v. Harry Land Court Case number 19 MISC 000137-RBF and the Town of Wenham zoning bylaw on Thursday, July 25th, 2019 at 7:30 p.m. in the Selectmen's Meeting Room at the Wenham Town Hall, 138 Main Street, Wenham, Mass. The applicant, Allison Stanley, applied for and obtained a special permit with conditions pursuant to Wenham zoning bylaw, Section 5.2.7.5, barns, to construct a barn at 35 Arbor Street, map 13, lot 006, and is now asking the zoning board to vacate that special permit, contending that no special permit is required for the barn in reliance on the agricultural protections of Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 3. Anthony Fahary, Wenham Board of Appeals, for publication in the Hamilton Wenham Chronicle on Thursday, July 11th and Thursday, July 18th, 2019.
So the way that this board runs its meetings is somewhat informal, in the sense that we ask anyone who is going to speak to identify themselves for the record. And the way that we run the meeting is to allow the petitioner to begin making a presentation, and then we open it up to questions from the board and participation from anyone else who's here this evening. Obviously, we've also gotten some written communications, which are made part of the record, but for the Stanleys, who is going to do the presentation?
For the record, my name is Frank DeLuna with Smolak and Vaughn. We're here again on the remand. I have submitted a previous communication in March outlining what our position is and why 40A Section 3 does not require the applicants to have a special permit in order to enlarge a barn. For the record, I believe the record is complete with a copy of the building permit application, a copy of the building permit itself, and I have today, I'm not sure if you have it in your files, an occupancy certificate for the barn. If that's not in your record, I
do
can
not have
supply that.
Thank you.
Sorry, the occupancy permit, I'd like to be sure that I know what it is that you're submitting.
Final inspection for occupancy.
And this is for the barn.
Yes.
So let's just make sure that, I hadn't seen the occupancy permit signed. This is kind of everything else that was in front of us.
Excuse me, I do not have a copy of the building permit application.
I believe it's
My
there.
file. Okay,
That-
if I could have that copy, that would be fine.
Okay. Do you want this, Margaret?
Yep. Thank you.
And
Oh, we're very familiar with the property,
the
but thank you.
the arrow shows where the barn is, and the bottom the bottom photograph is what is constructed. So the public records indicate that the parcel is 5.5 acres. Actually, we believe it's 5.8 acres, so it's over the 5-acre requirement for 48 Section 3. The commercial keeping of horses and the chickens all make that part of the definition of agriculture as it's set forth.
That's really my first question. We've had a number of hearings with respect to this property, and it's been consistently represented to us that there has not been a commercial operation in respect of horses, that the horses there were all family-owned horses, that there was no boarding of horses, and that there was no commercial operation. Has that changed?
It's still, you have borders, or you plan to have borders?
We plan to.
They plan to have borders.
Okay.
Okay, so that fits into the definition of 128, Section 1A.
Not necessary.
They still have the chickens, that they do sell the eggs.
Representation to us one way or the other. I don't mean to suggest that anybody told us they didn't have chickens, but let's hear more about the chickens that they have and the precise nature of the commercial operation.
The precise nature of the commercial operation is the boarding of horses.
Okay, but we've just established that they aren't currently boarding horses as a commercial facility, but they do plan to.
Well, they do breed horses. All
Not
right.
as a commercial operation. That has been consistently represented to this board, and it's all part, and I know you haven't been part of this. We want to be sure, and again, there are neighbors. I want to be sure that the record tonight, and we may end up continuing the public hearing as well, is as clear as it can be about just what the facts are, okay? The only commercial, our understanding, in terms of evidence before this board, is that the only commercial operation on that property is the allowed business that Mr. Stanley runs for the HVAC system.
That's not right either. If I can make that clear, if I could.
Come up to the podium, introduce.
Okay.
And identify yourself, please.
David Stanley, 35 Arbor Street. Now, just because I'm a business owner and I live at 35 Arbor Street, doesn't mean I'm running a commercial business out of my house.
I'm simply saying, you're authorized to do a home occupation.
I understand that. So now it's going to be a farm, is what I'm saying. So what I'm trying to clarify, we're not running multiple businesses out of 35 Arbor Street. We're not running one business out of 35 Arbor Street.
You are still using 35 Arbor Street for a home occupation consistent with the allowable zoning for that, correct?
I'm a business owner, and I reside at 35 Arbor Street. Doesn't mean I'm running a business out of 35 Arbor Street.
You've been in front of us on
Well,
numerous
yeah,
occasions.
no, and I've never...
You are still you've got an HVAC business. There are trucks there from time to time. There are materials coming and going. You aren't fabricating.
No.
You're very much on the record about what goes on.
Well, I didn't put myself on the record. My neighbors put me on the record, is what they did.
Well, it's
They're
the
telling
it's the
you...
record.
Okay, so
In front
why
of
don't we clarify what a home occupancy business is then? That's what we got to clarify first of all. I can own multiple businesses if I want to. Just because I reside at 35 Arbor Street, doesn't matter.
That wasn't a question.
Well, it seems to be here, because...
When I say
Oh.
that, it wasn't a question to me,
Oh.
so I'm not going to respond to it as though it were a question. You have a right to run such aspects of your HVAC business as are consistent with a home occupation without special permit,
Okay.
period. And you do, and we have consistently said yes to that, and we've had a building inspector or two maybe, who have consistently agreed with that.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
But the farm
My
has
point
nothing
is
to
simply
do...
that there has never been a representation that you're running a commercial farm there, raising livestock,
Well,
selling them,
Well,
eggs,
let's put it
running-
this way. The reason we got the special permit is because we were told we needed a special permit.
Absolutely correct, sir.
Okay. And so now we don't want those stipulations put on us when we didn't need a special permit for that barn.
That's yet to be decided.
Oh, okay. That's what I'm just saying. That's where we're at. Let alone if we want to breed horses, if we want to sell eggs, that's beside the point.
My question was, tell us more about the sale of eggs.
You want to talk about the sale of the eggs?
We have 20 chickens and we sell our eggs. We have for years.
Where do you sell them, and what's the revenue that's generated from them?
We sell, well, we have quite a few customers that buy them every week. What's the revenue? What did we generate last year? I'd have to look at our taxes because we filed it on our taxes. I forget exactly.
Approximately.
We sold a horse for $2,500. We sold probably a couple $1,000s worth of eggs.
And that was last year, meaning?
In 2018.
We're going to need some evidence in front of this, some actual evidence of exactly what's going on, because there's going to be an appeal from anything we do here, I'm sure. So we want to be absolutely certain.
When we were at the last meeting, and Dave and I thought you were telling us we couldn't do this and we couldn't do that. You said we could never have a sixth horse in the sixth stall. You could never put another horse
That's
in the
because-
other barn.
Well, let's
And
go
we're
through
like-
those one at a time. That's because
Yeah.
the town has a restriction on 5 horses, right?
Excuse me?
The town has a restriction that would be 5 horses in terms of it's a
The barn.
horse an acre, if I remember correctly.
That-
or-
He's the expert on that.
I suspect,
I couldn't find that anywhere, but
Well,
it's in there somewhere.
I believe that's a Board of Health regulation, not a zoning regulation.
nevertheless, that was what was in front of us, okay?
Okay.
And the representation was there were only 5 horses, so.
We will provide to you evidence of the sale of the horse and the sale of eggs. That will allow that property to be considered commercial agriculture.
Is there any other and I don't mean it, forgive me if if I'm asking too many questions, but I just want to be sure that the record is clear about every aspect of the commercial operation of
Okay.
a farm there. And I've seen the verified complaint. I've heard what you said, that you plan to board horses, if you will. You've indicated you have some revenue in the past from the sale of a horse and
Yeah.
from the sale of eggs. Is there any other aspect that is a commercial operation? For example, we were specifically told, is there anything else that you want to put on the record about the commercial operations there?
That would be it.
No.
You don't sell the goats
And you
to
know
me.
what, just to
No.
be clear,
No, we're not going to eat our goats.
I think we're going to continue this public hearing to give you an opportunity to be sure that you present to the board whatever you think we should consider in a form that we can accept it in as evidence, since that seems to be what Judge Foster is talking
So
about.
the issue that we're confronted with is the operation commercial? If the operation is commercial, then you will consider the provisions of 48, Section 3, and we would talk about nullification of the special permit accordingly.
Let's start with the first part. Yes, at least as the way that we read the case law, it's got to be a commercial operation, and that's primary at the property.
I don't believe it says primary in
Okay,
the
well
statute.
then, perhaps we'll all learn more about that as we go forward, but we want to be 100% sure about exactly what is going on there, because
Is there,
we're certain that every neighbor will express some view about whether that's so or not so,
Yeah.
or the like.
is there anything else this board would like? Because I will request a continuance.
Well, what I wonder about is, does the barn have anything to do with the sale of the eggs?
That was one of the questions that I had too.
It just seems to me that it does hinge on it being commercial, and if it is commercial, then there can't be any restriction of the building materials and so on used in the barn, and that all makes sense. But if the commercial activity that's going on, that is ongoing, is the sale of chicken eggs, does the barn have to be associated with that? Because that doesn't mean that if you have an egg producing business, that doesn't remove regulation of anything you build on your property, it seems to me. But-
Well, 48, Section 3 addresses the land, not necessarily the structure.
We
So if the-
agree with that,
if the-
but you would certainly agree with the way the question. if
Chickens are
somebody
not,
had-
chickens are not in the new barn.
Correct. So that would be something we'd take into consideration if someone were running a chicken business and wanted to build a warehouse for something entirely different. We'd look at that issue for sure.
All right. I don't believe you're correct, but we'll take your assumption.
And I'm not saying we're right or wrong. I said we'd take it into consideration in terms of understanding what we're going to present back to Judge Foster.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like?
Counsel is here tonight, and so I'd like to ask counsel whether there are any questions that you believe you'd like to ask or have us ask of petitioner.
I don't have any questions. I think to the extent that we may end up with a continuance, we should at least go through the additional submissions that you've had from abutters and such things, so that we
Yes.
can flush through those things, but I don't myself have any questions.
Okay.
And obviously, we're leaving this open, you're not prohibited, you're not done. We're expecting that you will be presenting some additional things to us, okay?
Yes, you will be
Now-
receiving additional information.
In terms of what we've got here, we had one communication,
Yeah.
I think only one, from the Burts.
Yep.
Is there
We forwarded
anything
it.
else to
Yes.
add?
Thank you.
And I forwarded that to council so that he
Okay,
can see it.
you've seen this
in his-
letter?
Yes, I have.
Which basically is in support of the restrictions that we put on the special permit, and it also asks some questions. We certainly suggest that to the extent that you want to answer any of the questions that are raised in the Burt's letter, feel free to respond to the letter, okay?
Very few of the questions are actually zoning.
I understand that. We leave it to your
Okay.
discretion in terms of what you want, what you choose to or choose not to respond to. Okay? Okay. We've got some members of the public here. So we'd like to open this up to the public please identify yourself, and if you've got questions or a statement, or feel free.
Paul Mendoza, 38 Arbor Street. My first question is, I'd like very much to see this occupancy permit we're talking about
The
for the
occupancy
barn.
permit was simply the building permit that the building inspector signed off at the time of the construction,
Final
correct?
inspection.
Final inspection.
The barn
The barn,
out back.
correct. That's
Okay.
all, that's the only matter that is in front of us.
People are living in the barn out back.
What? No.
Occupancy by what?
No.
Cows, horses?
The occupancy permit that we're talking about here is not about the garage, which was the subject of a different
Right.
decision from which no appeal was taken and which isn't in front of us now. This is the occupancy permit to allow horse occupancy of the expanded barn.
Okay. We've heard so much about occupancy, and we've got a multifamily house.
I
It's
understand.
very disconcerting. Another question I have is, the home rule should supersede state law. And our home rule is very clear on,
Fortunately, it kind of goes the other direction as a general rule, that state law will trump, let me choose a different term, will override.
we are a home rule state, and that could be contested in court in any individual case.
Well, as I say, almost anything that this board does on this property will likely be appealed by some party, so when we get around to doing that, we'll deal with the relationship between the aspects of 40A, state law, and the aspects
Okay.
of ours.
So what I heard is that this board is being questioned on their decision for this, all of this land use, based on your bylaws, not state law. And you have
I don't
been...
think so. I think they're basically saying that state law supersedes our zoning in respect of the only matter that's in front of us tonight, which is the extension of the barn.
But I don't think we're talking to each other here. Your decisions are based on your bylaws. You didn't look at state law on any of these decisions. So you made a decision to grant...
Always informed by Chapter 40A in anything that we do, and I think our bylaws are consistent with 40A, by the way. We weren't presented at the outset with the notion that this was a commercial operation.
Right, exactly.
As to which no special permit was needed. Instead, the Stanleys came before us informally and asked whether or not they needed a special permit. We indicated that under the bylaw, that the sensible thing to do was to ask for a special permit. We granted the special permit.
Right. And I think you were right in calling it a special permit because it was special. My next issue or question is with regard to one horse per acre. It seems to me that the attorney spoke and indicated that he's going to contest that concept as well. This is one horse per acre, and the majority of that acreage is wetlands, and I'm a commissioner on the water board. That concerns me greatly, that we're going to say that one horse could live in a section of wetlands and another, and two on the land, and the chickens, and the other activities there. So one horse per acre with barns and garages, 4-car garages when your bylaws say 3-car only. I think we need to look at the acreage and have it specifically indicate where these horses will live and where their acre is. If it's in the wetlands, no go.
Well,
And
we've
that's
talked about
federal
this
and
before.
state.
We've talked about this before, that is likely the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission and the Board of Health, as opposed to this board. but,
Then it shouldn't be with this board.
well, at this point, we're not talking about the number of horses or anything else.
I think we are.
At this point, we're being asked whether or not they fit within the provisions of state law so as to have no need for a special permit to extend a barn. That's the only thing that's in front of this board.
I question the fact that this board is judging on state law only. And that would be a question that I'll need an answer for. Thank you. Excuse me.
Anyone else wish to be on the record with a question or a comment? Hearing nothing, yes.
I do have a question. Would you mind just going over what it is we're expecting them to give us?
I think that's a good idea.
Can I ask one other just question before we get to that?
Yes,
Just-
please.
Sorry, just for clarity's sake, I know through you, of course, that the applicant says they're planning to start boarding. Maybe a little more detail on that process might be.
I'm assuming that in connection with what it is that you're going to present to us.
We'll provide that information.
We're gonna need chapter and verse of what it is you're, quote, planning to do, so that we've got a record of what it is that we're relying on. Okay?
Fair enough.
Understanding that the burden of proof is on you before this board, and you are the petitioners, and we expect you to present this information to us that we would then rely on in connection with the remand.
Fair enough.
Any other questions from the board? Not that we're foreclosed, we're gonna
Should
get
we,
another.
well, should we talk about what we need to see from the petitioner?
Yeah, I mean, I think we want to see everything that you can provide to us that supports the, you've got a verified complaint that talks about the fact that said that this is, you know, you're selling horses and you're boarding horses, and, I mean, I looked at the verified complaint. None of that information has ever come in front of this board. So we're expecting that and anything else that you've got.
Because it seems here that the primary purpose of the structure is supposed to be for commercial agriculture, of the structure in question.
And agriculture broadly could include livestock.
It could, but we would need to see evidence that there's a commercial operation regarding the horses ongoing in that barn and that you use it in that way. We just need to see that in order to establish it as commercial. And that,
Yes.
it would seem to me that the eggs are not germane in that
Quite possibly not.
question.
Do you have another hearing date scheduled? Do you have another hearing date scheduled?
We actually do have one.
So we've got another matter do we have we,
We've advertised.
we're gonna need the three of us at the continued hearing
Okay.
too,
Okay.
so that's another thing that's important to say. So we've got something else that is supposed to come in front of this board, right? Another
Yes, and it's.
accessory apartment
August
thing?
15th, yeah. August 15th, we've scheduled another hearing for.
So August 15th, we've got another hearing. So, it would be this board's view, does that give you enough time?
I am not available. I
Yeah.
will be away August 15th.
What are our dates? I'm sorry?
August 15th.
August
Okay, so,
15th
because
is
of the
the-
way things work,
Thursday?
Yeah.
if we have a continued hearing, we have to have the same three members to decide the matter. Unless we had Jeremy watch the whole, it's possible for us to do otherwise, but
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Any Thursday in August is available for me. They're all,
And they're all for me except for the 15th.
So,
22nd?
22nd of August,
22nd works.
but we're still gonna have a,
We still have to have a meeting on the 15th.
on the
for
15th
another
that we've
case.
noticed or
Yeah.
something else. 22nd of August, does that give you enough time? Okay, then. And you indicated that you would request or acquiesce to a continuance.
Yes.
And so, with your agreement, not that we have to do that, but I'd like to entertain a motion to continue.
Can I just make one, just given that we are under remand, I think it's helpful just to go on the record of saying we agree that the board complied with obligations under the remand order and that you are, that we agree that a continuance makes sense. Yeah, just to have it
And just so I understand,
Yep.
if we just had to have the hearing
within 60 days.
within 60
Yep.
days.
And we opened it within 60 days, so.
Right, so
Exactly.
our continuing, it doesn't matter, it's just that when we're done,
Yes.
we've only got 30 days to
File
get
it.
something back to him.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so then I'd like to entertain a motion to continue this public hearing to the 22nd of August, 7:30, Town Hall, time and place agreed upon.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so,
Continuance request form,
I don't,
motion sufficient?
I think the motion's sufficient at this point. We're not bumping up to any constructive deadlines, so.
It's fine by me.
Okay, remand.
okay, well, thank you.
Continuance.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We do have a couple of additional administrative matters. We've got minutes from June 27th. If Dana has read them and reviewed them,
Yeah, and I have no comments.
and Evan,
No comments.
I have no comments either, so we're okay there. Future meeting dates, I guess we've covered, sorry.
Would you accept the minutes as written?
Yes, so I'd like to
Motion.
entertain a motion to accept the minutes from June 27th as written.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Future meeting dates we've got in other matters. Is there anything else that the board has coming around the corner? And what's the address of the hearing, of the one that's going to be on the 15th?
17 Howard Street, I think. Is it? I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me.
Okay.
But I think it's 17 Howard Street, and it's a accessory apartment. No, it's not. Roll it back. It's 17 Howard Street, and they want to open a drum studio, drum lessons in their garage.
Guess you'll see it when the paperwork comes through.
I did send you the paperwork on it.
I didn't look at it. It was
It's a drum studio.
That's awesome.
Drum studio?
I guess you'll learn more about it on the
We'll
15th.
learn more about it on the 15th. Yeah, you do have the application.
Just make the room as like echoey as possible.
All right.
Okay, so,
Drum studio.
August 22nd,
22nd.
7:30.
Here.
All right. and
That would
you'll
be in the
back.
nature of a
I can
home
come at night.
occupation?
I think it
don't know.
would.
That's what they're open for.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, my
Right.
goodness, okay.
And,
Not going to prejudge
you
anything.
want a motion to close?
Unless you've got something else to tell us?
No.
I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
So what else?